Welcome back to the Bearcat Tip-Off Talk podcast presented by Donahue Accounting Services. For friendly expert tax advice whenever you need it, come to Donahue Accounting Services. A leading accounting firm in Cincinnati, Ohio, our top-notch accountants strive to help you resolve all your financial and tax issues. Call Donahue Accounting Services today for a free consultation at 513-528-3982 or visit online at donahueaccountingservice.com. I'm your host, Alex Meacham, former Bearcat basketball player from 1997 to 1999 under the Hall of Fame coach, Bob.
And I'm Neil Meyer with the Front Office News.
And I'm JT Smith, editor-in-chief of the Front Office News.
All right, fellas, we are back for another episode. Let's jump right into it. And I feel like it's been forever since we talked. And there's two games we definitely got to talk about. The Bearcats are currently 10-1 after wins versus Dayton and Grambling. JT, thoughts on the Bearcats' performance?
Oh, man, I feel you. It's feel like we haven't been here for a minute, man. So happy to be back.
Hey, I miss you guys. Merry Christmas. First of all, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that good stuff.
Yeah, Merry New Year, too. I mean, because it's coming up. You feel me? About time
Happy Holidays.
Happy Holidays. Yes, sir.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. So, we talk about Dayton first. That's the game everybody cares about. Got a top 25 team at a neutral site. I feel like the Bearcat fans did a better job of making a showing than they did, the previous year, but it still was a heavy UD crowd. And the Bearcats, man, honestly, they could have blown them out. And that's not, UD is a good team, honestly. That it's no slight to them at all. So the thing is, the Bearcats impressed me because if they just connect on those four or five lobs that were, just a little bit behind, they think a little bit too late. They blow them out, man. It's not a game that gets down to 4 points if they just connect on those lobs. So that shows me that, UD is probably the most tested team they've played all year. And there's no slight to Xavier. I know that's the game that everybody wanted them to win, and I'm glad they won. That's the game that, keeps Wes Miller and everybody happy, like far as the fan base itself, and that's rightfully so. But the UD game proved that if they're playing similarly good, hitting on all cylinders, they're going to be a tough team to beat because UD is definitely going to the NCAA barring something crazy, and I wouldn't want UD in my bracket or on my side of play. But the way that the Bearcats played against them, and they made it tough for them to just run offense, and that's one of those things that if they going to carry that kind of defense going to the Big 12, bro, I think it's going to be a good year for Bearcat fans. And in the Grambling game, I think they had a lull a little bit, maybe a couple of minutes in the end of the first half, I mean. But the second half, they just came out and just said, F it, man. We just better. We're going to just put the pressure on them and just dominate. So after having such two big wins, I'm glad they just went ahead and handled business against Grambling State. Because that's one of those games that Grambling State, I think, lost to Ole Miss by like 2 or something like that, or something like it was something close. So it wasn't a team. This is a team that I think will make the NCAA too. They're not a UD or anything, but it's a team that if you take lightly, they'll pop you. They add some athletes. You could see it. You could tell when they start going into their competition, to their conference play, they'll be a factor. So I'm just glad the Bearcats took care of business, man. So for you guys, just a quick question. How did you feel those guys played, in those two games?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll start first. But overall, I thought the Dayton game was huge for many reasons. Obviously, what they did in the first half. Now, obviously, I wasn't there covering the game due to prior obligations. But what they did in the first half on the defensive aspect was...
Now, hold on, Neil, did you see that?
No, I didn't.
So, could you do it one more time, JT?
Cubs back.
See this on you. For those who see it,
the Cubs back.
JT,
hey, for the people that will see this around like 9:30 or 10, no, I don't have a problem. We're recording this pretty late the previous day, guys. So I just want to let you guys know that. You don't have to put me in AA or anything.
It is
holidays.
10:45 p.m. And can I guess what's in the cup, in the glass?
You go for it.
Okay, hold it back up. So that's like a Coke or Pepsi?
It's a splash of Coke in there.
Okay, Coke. And
I
I'm
can,
going to go
tell you
with
right now, JT.
You're going to be wrong, though, today, Neil. I bet you're wrong. Got 5
I'm going to go with some I'm going to go with some Henny.
No Henny. I have been drinking I drank Henny yesterday with my brother, so
okay.
close. But not.
I'm going to go.
Neil, you go.
A little Woodford action.
Man, you were close. You're
wrong,
though. You're close, though. You guys did pretty good. It's some makers. So
that
makers,
was going to be my second guess.
If you guys want to sponsor the show, we are not too proud.
Hey, but those who are listening and see this, JT is actually off work tomorrow due to the holidays. So if you do see it at 9:30 in the morning with a cup, just know he's off work.
Yep, I am off. I am legit off.
All right, sorry, Neil.
My bad.
Why don't you dive into the we
had
to you don't get to stop for that.
Back to the Dayton game. I thought what they did in the first half on the defensive aspect was something truly special on that aspect of things. I thought the first half, what they had, they held Dayton to just 17 points in the first half.
It's crazy.
That's crazy because everybody knows how good of an offensive scoring team Dayton is. So to hold them to just 17 points in the first half was huge. But they had opportunities to really blow this game open. But offense kind of was at one of those lulls to where they kind of allowed Dayton to come back in. But anytime, I think when we filmed the preview talking about Dayton, when you think about it, when you hold Nate Santos, Enoch Cheeks, and the one other guy to 7 of 31, I think, shooting. One on top of it, those were guys all averaging double figures a game. And you hold them to that kind of field goal percentage between the group. That's a pretty good thing to look down on and see. But overall, that's a huge win for them because everybody knows Dayton is in contention not only to win the A10, but they'll probably be a Sweet 16 tournament team this year, depending how the bracket falls out. But they're going to be an NCAA tournament team. And then on to Grambling, it was nice to see them get that big gap open early and kind of get the offense going early. But in both of those games,
Neil, you got to pause that.
Both of those games, you led from start to finish. So that's
you and Kyrie on us right there. That was.
Hey, this has been a crazy start to the podcast. This has been. Oh man! All right,
man.
But back to it. The Grambling game and Dayton game, you lead start to finish. I think that was huge. But the one big versus Grambling without Connor Hickman, so obviously that was something to kind of keep an eye on. Obviously, he missed the game with what looks to be a little foot injury. That was something bothering him. But Wes Miller and them were being pretty precautionary, especially with the week off heading into Kansas State. I think it was probably a smarter idea. But overall, to win that big without one of the guys who's been one of those glue pieces for Cincinnati is huge. But to see the offense and defense come together for over the last week and a half for Wes Miller and this team, it's starting to look pretty exciting as we ramp up for conference play here come tomorrow night.
Wow. Both you guys, spot on, well said. I was impressed with two things. First of all, coming off an emotional game like Xavier, wacky game, they turn around, and I was so impressed of Wes Miller and his staff having these guys ready to sit down and play defense. That first half defensively versus UD was as impressive a defensive effort I've seen in a long time from a Bearcat team. And we take a lot of pride, right, in our defense. That was so impressive. And then not only to beat Dayton, but then to turn around and beat Grambling 84-49. I think that was score 84-49, right?
I think so. It sounds about right.
So and to put it on them at that level when you've got guys that were sick, dealing with injuries. And I don't know what's going on right now, but everywhere I've been, people have been sick. I've had more stuff over the last, 2.5 weeks canceled because people were like really, really sick. And obviously it affected this basketball team. But kudos to the staff for keeping this team focused in that ability to lock down. That was so impressive versus Dayton, their ability to lock down. But I want to make this point. As you look at it this year, the revenge tour, Ohio State in the exhibition, NKU, Xavier, Dayton, right? So 4 teams that I feel like we had the win. Now, obviously, Ohio State was an exhibition game, but it's still a lot, in Ohio. But they had to win those 4 games, JT, for this team to be the team that I think everyone thinks they're going to be at the end of the year.
No, for sure. And they're not even hitting on all cylinders. Like, they haven't played a perfect game, which is great for the Bearcats. And that should make the fan base more excited because they dominated Dayton, honestly. I think Dylan and Dan make those alley-oop plays, the game's a blowout. That's a 15-point win for the Bearcats because after a while, Coach Grant is going to sit those guys down. It's no purpose. Yep. He just had a few tough games. Why grind them all the way out? You know what I mean? Pause per se, right? Right. Yeah, I gotta pause it. But right, but you beat a team like that, a quality team like Dayton right now. Honestly, so far, probably the best team they played. That's on site to Dayton. The biggest game was the Xavier game because of the pressure. But the best team they played, pound for pound, player for player, is UD.
I would agree with that.
The Bearcats were just a better team on the court, like player for player. That first 20 minutes was like a defensive masterpiece. Like, I think they can sell that to high school coaches across the U.S. That first 20 minutes, stopping a high power team, making it hard for them to get into their offensive sets. I mean, Dayton went 0 for 6 from 3. It's crazy. That's crazy. That probably won't happen the rest of the season against no matter who they play. You know what I mean? I don't even know if UC can make them go for 6 or make them allow them not to hit a 3. And everything was contested. So it was just like, it was a masterpiece. So not to get long-winded, I'll bounce back to you guys.
Yeah, JT, Coach Grant said something, I think, and Neil, I know you're really good with the post-game press conference stuff, but I think he said that Cincinnati was the most physical team that they played thus far, and that gave Dayton a lot of problems. And I really loved hearing that, because we talk about to win those rivalry games, Xavier, you have to be the toughest team, right? You have to be physical. To win conference games, we're going to talk about Kansas State soon, Arizona, Kansas around the corner, all those good teams. You're going to have to be physical, and the Big 12 is a physical league. Now, JT, you mentioned something, and Neil, I want to throw this at you. I believe there were 15,000 plus people there at the Dayton game. But Dayton has an unbelievable fan base. They've historically always traveled well. Home games are always packed. But you were there, Neil. What was kind of the breakdown of the crowd, Bearcats? Because when I watched on TV, initially it didn't look like there were a lot of Bearcat fans in the beginning. But then as we started to make those runs and really locking down on defense, on TV at least, you could hear the Bearcat fans. And some of the red I thought was Dayton was actually Bearcat fans.
Yeah, so that would actually be the JT question, Meach, because that was the night my best friend got married. So JT was in attendance. I missed that Dayton game.
Oh, one of the few games I think you've missed, Neil.
Yeah. I think that's the only one in like 1 or 2 in the last 4 years.
Well, by the way, I'm glad you made it back safely from the wedding.
Thank you.
Disappear. I apologize. Yeah. Sometimes Neil likes to disappear when he goes on the party team, but
he pulls that Darkwing Duck, boy. He be out of here.
What?
He put that Darkwing Duck, smoke
Darkwing
put a cape up. Neil be out of there.
JT, you were there, so I'm sorry. I'll throw that question to you then.
All right. So if it's 15,000, it was over 15,000. So I would say it probably was 6,500 Bearcat fans, and then the rest I would say were Dayton. 65 to 7K. But I would say the Bearcat fans that were there were very loud, real loud.
Yeah.
So
you could hear it on TV.
They were loud. I was even impressed because at first I thought it was even more of a lopsided amount of fans. But when Bearcats started making plays, I'm like, oh, it's more in here than I thought. Like you said, that red was a neutral red, aka on the Bearcat side.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, I didn't say anything about Grambling. I do want to say something about Grambling. Aziz has 15 points for Grambling, right?
Yeah. And crazy about that too is I was just looking at the stats earlier tonight. Cincinnati is 12-1 when Aziz has double figures in points going back to his time at Cincinnati. And you want to know the only loss that happened, the only loss out of those 13 games was last year versus Dayton. But this season, when you look down, Aziz Bandego's in double digits for 6 games so far this season, including a UC career high with 17 at Howard.
I think one of the most impressive things that Aziz has done is his ability to make free throws. I think he was 4 for 4 against Dayton? Was that against Dayton?
When Wes Miller said that Aziz skips his water breaks at practices to shoot free throws, he was not kidding.
Well, I'm impressed because when Aziz shoots a free throw, I'm always like, that's not going in. Just the form wise, because he's so, it's going to look, kind of awkward and goofy. But there's been games he's been our best free throw shooter at times,
some big time free throws too.
I know. Yeah. And I'm like, who would have thunk Aziz is our free throw shooter? Like, what?
Yeah. You go up to Aziz, like, man, just split. Like, in your head, you're like, split. And you cashing them both out. I'm like, okay, then, big man.
I know.
Yeah.
We'll take it. And he's been playing. I think he's been playing well.
Ever since I called him as the wild card, I called him the personal watch against Xavier. Ever since that game, I feel like he's made a real impact. Like a tangible impact.
No doubt. I think he must have listened to the pod and he heard you.
I think so too.
You gave him confidence, JT. I'm almost positive.
Hey man, I'm here for the players, man. Like, I'm pro. You know what I mean? I'm here for you guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I'm not here like anything I say that's a little negative. It's constructive. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's all positive. It's all come from a place of love. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let them know that. You know what I'm saying?
Dr. Phil of our podcast. Yeah. Now, the Bearcats finished 10-1 in non-conference play. And this Monday at 7 p.m., the Bearcats take on Kansas State in Manhattan, Kansas. And it's on CBS Network?
Yeah.
Help me out on this one. Where do we find that?
So, for the people out here, you're probably going to need to have a special link unless your cable network has it. But
sneaking,
link. But I don't know. I mean, because I think I had it. I'm kind of a cable cut person, so I'm part of the, find it, get it how you live person. So it's not gonna be on ESPN Plus, people. So y'all can chalk that, and then gotta kind of have to get it how you live. But it should be on your cable networks if you have like the special sports package.
Okay.
Yeah, my parents still got Spectrum, so I'll be hopefully be able to find it on TV. If not, the special link will be there.
All right, yeah. If need be, I got y'all. I'm pretty sure I got.
I know a couple of those special links.
I got a couple special links.
Air quotes are going up for everybody that's listening to this on Spotify, SoundCloud.
I got y'all, man. I can't share it to everybody because people be like hating sometimes. Like, he sent me something, but I got you though.
Wait, how'd they sound again, JT?
People be grumpy, man. People ain't never happy. Like, damn, I'm trying to give you something for the frizzle. You mad at me? It ain't working how you wanted to work. My bad.
Good drink kicking in. You're listening to the Bearcat Tip-Off Talk podcast presented by Donahue Accounting Services. Now let's jump into the Big O segment sponsored by Smart Dog Solutions. In this segment, we cover players to watch and key matchups. JT, who are you expecting to have a big game from the Bearcats?
Okay, so
you've been doing pretty good this year.
I know, man. I have. That's what's a lot of pressure.
Let's keep this going.
I know. I need there's some pressure, man. So on the road, man. I'm sorry for taking this long to give this answer. This one, man. I'm going. You know what? F it. I'm going with my man Dan Skillings.
Okay.
And why, Dan? This is gonna be the first Big 12 game. It's time to rebound. It's time to, you're on the road. You might not shoot as good as you normally shoot when you're at home.
Right.
So I need Dan to give me 5 to 7 rebounds, 3 to 4 of them to be on the offensive side to either get himself an easy shot, a layup, which he's been doing a great job of as of late, or get his teammates the easy shot. So that's what I want to do. And then he normally he's doing a great job on the defensive end as of late too. So whoever they put him on, I want him to slow down somebody on K-State, make it a little bit tougher on them on their home floor. So Dan's going to be the guy. I just feel like his energy is infectious. He doesn't always need the ball. He can off cuts. He can create for himself. So he's the guy because he can just get it out the mud. Sometimes you don't have to really run a play for him. He can just make a play off the other player, and that's off of CMOS, off of Jizzle, off of Day. So that's one of the things you need on the road, and it's going to be a tough environment first game in the Big 12.
And Dan had a big game versus Dayton.
Yes.
Now, JT, do you attribute that to you think he's back healthy? He's in that mindset where I'm good. It's time to go.
Yeah. I think how he finished Xavier, he took that into Dayton and just I feel like his legs were under him the whole game. I thought he had times on the court where he looked like the best player on the court, and like Dayton couldn't do anything with him. He was staying with, the guard. I forgot the young man's name, but he's averages double digits, and he's like a 6'1", 6'2" guard. And Dan was on him like white on rice, and he was a shadow all night. So he's just one of those dudes. And I think right now his timing's getting better, and his legs are getting under him. He had the knee injury early in the season. I think the knees are just his legs are getting under him, and it's at a perfect time.
Yep. So Neil, we're going to jump into you. Kansas State. I've not watched them play this year. I've done a really poor job of watching college basketball this year. I've just not done a good job. Usually, I catch bits and pieces of teams and stuff, but this year, no, I have no idea about Kansas State. So Neil,
yeah, I've been trash too.
You've been trash. It's just one.
I normally like now this conference is starting. I'm gonna be on it more, but normally I'm way better than I am this year. So far, it's been bad.
And this is why we have Neil on the podcast. Yep. Neil's good at this. He knows. Neil.
Yep.
Yeah, so before we jump into the players to watch for Kansas State, my impact player for UC, and it's going to lead into the players to watch, Dylan Mitchell. I think this is going to be the game where his defense will simply win you a ball game. And the reason I say that is because Kansas State's best player came via transfer portal this offseason from Illinois, 6'10", Coleman Hawkins. This was one of the most highly coveted guys in the transfer portal this offseason, and was basically Kansas State's number one go-to target. He got up north of $1.5 million in the transfer portal for a reason, but unfortunately, he has not lived up to the full expectations on the offensive side.
Neil, hold on 1 second. How much did he get?
Close to 1.5.
So wait a minute. How does that work real quick? Either one of you educate me on that. Is that given up front, or is that given in?
That's a great question. I don't know. But when he was in the portal, he was out there like you would see all the reports. Like he was demanding like 1.75 or 1.5 to like $2 million, some crazy number. But Kansas State's NIL is top 5 in the country, so they were able to dish it out to him. So
yeah,
I'd command like $500. I think like.
Hey, but I heard they're supposed to get like half up front. Like that's the rule of thumb. Like when I talked to a couple, it's like
really?
If they ask for, they get 500,000. Normally the rule is like, hey, if I'm covering here, I'm getting 250 when I step on the camp. You know what I mean? Before I step on the campus. Otherwise, it's F you kind of a thing. That's what the rule of thumb I hear, but. I don't know how those payments are broken down. Like, do you get the 250 if you don't play good? And cats be like, dog, that's it. Or it's like, all right, you might get a 50 ball once a month. How's that go? Like, I don't know. I need to ask more stuff about how those payments transpire.
We need to find this out because hey, this isn't stopping
at all.
No, and it won't anytime soon either.
No. Nope.
But for Kansas State, too, getting back into them, they have actually very underperformed throughout the non-conference slate. They're riding a 3-game losing streak, and you look down at what those 3 losses were. There was only one good team out of the 3, and they're coming off an absolute horrendous loss to Wichita State, who blew them out by 20 last weekend. So when you see that, it's like, oh, you never know what kind of Kansas State team you might get coming into conference play. But their last 3 games, they lost 88-71 to St. John's in the Big 12 Big East battle. They lost to Drake 73-70 in overtime. And then they got absolutely manhandled by Wichita State 84-65 on December 21st. So that's another scary thing is Kansas State has now had 9 full days to get ready for this game compared to what Cincinnati would only have in about the 7 or, well, they've had about the same time, but 7 or 8 days to get ready for this. But Kansas State, Coleman Hawkins, everybody knows that's going to be your guy for Kansas State. And then they also have a very good, solid backcourt as well. Doug McDaniel from the Michigan transfer, he has been great for them since coming over. He is averaging 10 points a game, but he's really good with the ball in his hands, can really facilitate as well. And then they have 2 veteran guys. Brandon Hawson is their go-to guy just about from behind the arc, go-to point guard, 44% from the field, 45% from behind the arc. So you cannot let him get going from behind the arc or he will make you pay. Playing his day on that aspect. And then David Ingusson leads the Wildcats in field goal percentage. He's going to be your guy who's going to get you a bucket inside for Kansas State. He was with them last year, kind of seen his role develop more over this year now that he's been in the system for a few years, but he's shooting from a 67% field goal percentage. So anytime you see a big guy shooting 67% from the line, Gotta be kind of a guy you worry about, but that's when you see how effective he has been in the paint this year. But let's be honest, Kansas State hasn't played a team yet where they're going to link against a team with the size and the physicality of Cincinnati with guys like Dan Skillings, Dylan Mitchell, Aziz Bandego, AP there in the paint. It's going to be a fun matchup, but those are definitely your guys you got to keep an eye out for there for Kansas State. But it's going to be a fun matchup for sure, especially when you never know what to expect with the Jerome Tang Kansas State team because we know how much energy Jerome Tang has. And heading into conference play, I think Kansas State was projected to finish middle of the Big 12. So they're going to try to come out and make some people pay for how the preseason votings went. But it's going to be a fun one on Monday night in the Little Apple of Manhattan, Kansas.
All right. You know what time it is. Come on, Neil. You got to do your... JT, what dance did Neil? What would we call that?
Oh no,
man.
Oh no,
that's tough. Neil, let's jump to the main game with Kansas State here. Let's start with number 1.
Number 1 off the top.
Number 1 for Kansas State is David Ingusson.
You just said that. Yeah, that last name was, you did pretty good with that. Number 4.
Yeah, he did.
Number 4 for Kansas State is Moby Ikegwuruka. That's a.
Ooh, say it again, bro.
Moby Ikegwuruka.
Hey, JT, wait. Look at Neil while he says that. Say it again, Neil.
Moby Ikegwuruka.
the picture, the how you say, look, wow. Number 21.
21.
Number 21 is Bayfall.
I like that's kind of a dope name. Number 23.
Number 23 is Michaela Rich.
Okay. It was the way he spelled Michaela caught me.
Yeah. You're good there. Number 34.
Number 34 is Ugana Onyenso.
That's pretty good, man.
Yeah,
transfer. You did a pretty good job there, Neil. We haven't
had.
have we had one this year that was really like crazy? Like,
we've
had not have.
We haven't found Gob Gob yet.
Wow, it's crazy.
That's Gob Gob is
it's crazy.
I don't care what culture you come from or language. Gob Gob just isn't. You gotta,
man.
Just
that's not like nothing. That's
Don't even
sound like.
JT. Don't even do it. Don't even do
it. They might cancel us.
We'll get canceled. The Big O segment is sponsored by Smart Dog Solutions. Listen, first of all, I'm just happy that I think, and Neil, JT, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think everyone is back healthy for this game. Did I hear that right?
Should be.
Should be. Yeah.
Last time we checked, I felt like
last time
Hickman should be playing.
Yep.
Barring anything crazy, right? So you think you're right.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to that. I think this team's making tremendous strides. And I'm just going to kind of take a name totally out of left field for the Bearcats to play well this game, and that's Day. I know random, but I want to give Day a shout out. Probably I'm saying Day because I do want to give him a shout out. Here's a guy who I think has played an important role with this team that doesn't show up in statistical categories. Just his leadership. I think vocal by example. Coming off the bench, he's not complained, at least that I've seen, or body language hasn't shown that. Am I right, fellas? Like he's not pouting, but I think every time he's come in, he's contributed with positive minutes and had a positive impact in the game. So I'm looking forward. I'm hoping for a big game from Day, just because I think, his attitude has been so good and infectious for this basketball team. My question is this. With the new rule in place, or about to be in place, I believe next year, for the JUCO guys being able to play the full amount of 4 years instead of 2 in college. Does that impact a guy like Day?
It sure would.
It should.
So that would mean we would have Day 2 more years?
At least
one for sure.
One for sure.
If
it's, I guess, finalized or whatever, he at least will get one more year.
I know JT's not a fan of that rule and how that went down, but just because of the guy who started it. But in favor of UC, I know JT will probably take that one.
No, I respect it. If it's a rule, definitely take advantage of it. But I don't know. It's just the kid that made the fuss.
He's been in college for like 6 years.
5 total. So he's getting a 6th year. But he's like, if you look at the games he's played every year for 5 years. Like he got an extra year, got 3 D1 years, and he got 2 JUCO years, and he played both JUCO years. It wasn't like he was a guy that rode the bench. He had at least 8 games in both of those JUCO years. So I was like, that with that part, it's like, I'm not a fan of it because I think it's going to hurt. Overall, it's going to hurt a lot of high school kids. I don't like where it's going to put those high school kids if this is official, I think.
Well, to your point, I think there are a lot of things in place right now that hurt the high school kid.
The transfer portal already hurts the high school kid.
No question. I think a lot of people have been impacted. Shoot, I mean, you take it back a couple, COVID impacted a lot of kids.
Yeah, it hurt too.
Right? So it's just like, and now, me running an AU basketball program, I get asked a lot of times by parents and kids, what should we do in terms of, college selections? Should we go somewhere that maybe we didn't want to go at a level, like let's say you go to a D2 and you were a D1, go to D2 for maybe a year, kill it for 2 years, and then jump in the portal and go to a D1.
Yeah.
You almost have to play the game now. It's a game within a game. So not easy in 2024, 2025 for a lot of these young high school guys, but
yeah.
And then you've got, and I'm sorry, JT, let me say this real quick.
You good?
I'll forget.
No, you good.
But we joke about the name game, but the real deal is you've got now not only high school kids are battling older players in the portal, but now you've got guys coming from overseas.
Yep.
You've got Aziz and CMOSs and all these guys, and they can play, man. And they're coming from. So it's like that's not stopping. So these high school kids, man, it's a different road. I'm sorry, JT.
No, for sure. Like You just got to think about, like, you already got the international kids, which is fair. That's always been a part of the game. But it's just like for those kids that, like, I don't know, man. It's a lot of kids that, like you said, have to go D2 if they get lucky. Like, it's the top kids that won't affect, like those top 100, maybe the 150. I don't know. It depends on the size, though, because you might get sized out because you got a 23-year-old that's got another year and it can burn you. You know what I mean? So I think the top 50 kids that really won't hurt. Top 75 probably still gonna get the same looks they're gonna get regardless. But those kids that are like very good, but you might have to work on them because they weigh 185, and they might, stuff like that is gonna nip people in the bud. But I mean, hopefully the JUCO can be good, but it'd be bad because JUCOs aren't. It's a different animal at JUCO. It's not the same amenities. It's a little different. You got to be a different beast to be like, F it, I'm going to keep rocking out at JUCO. Not all of them are going to have the same resources of a D3 or D2 school because you might be in the middle of the city where they don't even got dorms. And this kid is, you watch those shows, kids are living in the city and trying to make it happen. And it could be different. A kid might be good enough but just can't go through the grind of being able to be secure because of it. I don't know, man. Like if UC can keep Day for another year, I'm definitely all on board for it. But I just think overall the NCAA, it's already getting harder for high school kids to make it to the next level. And I think if they allow kids to go to JUCO for 2 full years and then get a whole another 4 years, I just don't. And because COVID was just starting to get cleared up. Like I think you got 1 or 2 more years of where the COVID year was going to be here. So you clear that up, and then as soon as that's cleared up, you're going to give kids that have come in 2021 4 full years. Only positive I like about it is they're going to be able to probably get their masters and their education that way. But as far as the young guys, I feel like it's going to take a lot of special kids to want to gut through JUCO when they probably 2 or 3 years ago, they probably wouldn't even have been a JUCO prospect because their grades are good and everything else. But the only way they're going to get a look is if they have to go JUCO. And then, it can get ugly.
Let me throw this point out here too. So the other thing that's changed is with the college coaches, they don't have the type of contracts they did back in the day. Like when I played, I forget how many years Hugs was there, and you've got these longer contracts. These college coaches now don't have as long a contract, and there's a pressure on them to win within 3 years, sometimes less than that. So if you're like, okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're a Travis Steele, former Xavier coach. He takes over the Miami Oxford program, right? So he's got a long runway because Miami hasn't been very good in basketball. But at the same token, he needs to win because, because of the lack of success they've had in the past. If he doesn't win in a couple years, it's like, we're on to the next, right? So he's looking at it as, I've got to get old. I've got to get old quickly. And I get old through the portal, right? Yeah. So let's say and Miami's got a good basketball team this year. He's recruited a lot of good guys. But let's say you're one piece away from taking yourself or your team to that next level. And that one piece is a seasoned guard, right? You don't have time to get a freshman and work that freshman through. You're going to go get a transfer from Central State or wherever. I'm making Central Michigan, right? To come in, boom, play right away, help elevate us. Now we can win the MAC, right? Yeah. Now I get that extension on my contract. And now from a recruiting standpoint, if I have an extension, now kids know that if I recruit you, I'm going to be here for a longer period. So there's so much. There's so many layers to this now, man. And I'm thinking like back in the day when I played, it was like, all right, Hugs is going to be there every year. The same guys are coming back. It was just like, I was like, man, I was talking with Kenyon about that. I was like, man, it's just so very different now.
Yeah, for sure.
But
different animal.
That's what happens. Everything begins to change when it becomes big business, in the $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
Like it's always been big business, but now it's billions, all these TV deals, the merch and NIL. Man, things get wacky when when it starts to become about the big bucks, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Sponsored by Smart Dog Solutions. Do you have a business that needs better inventory control, production management, or improved accounting control? Outgrown QuickBooks or can't afford NetSuite? Give loyal Bearcat grads Doug and Kathy Jacobs at Smart Dog Solutions a call. They have been in your position, would love to help solve your problems. They can be contacted at 513-739-9473 or online at smartdog-solutions.com. You're listening to the Bearcat Tip-Off Talk podcast presented by Donahue Accounting Services. Now, the Kenyon segment is sponsored by my guy, Greg Hooden at Beachmont Toyota. This is where we cover the keys to the game. JT, what do the Bearcats need to do to win?
Protect the ball on the road, out-rebound Kansas State. Those are the two things. I don't even care about the shooting because I feel like their defense. Do I want to see good shooting? Yes, but I feel like their defense, if they play like they've been playing the last couple of weeks on defense, that's something. It's like a running game in football. You can take that on the road and be fine. So just don't turn the ball over. Just keep it under 12 tops, and let's win the rebounding game. And I think you win that game, whether it's by 7, 10. I think you get a convincing win if you take care of the ball, rebound.
Well, JT, and I want to touch on that rebounding a little bit. So if you look at Kansas State, I think, what are they, Neil? 6-5? Did you say that earlier?
6-5, yep.
Or you said they're 6-5. So of the 6-5, I think the home loss, I think they have 2 home losses. One is where UC's playing, but I think their other home loss was at T-Mobile. That was considered a whole home game, if I remember that correctly.
Okay.
Is that right, Neil? You can look that up. You're the researcher. So if you look at that, they lose a home game to LSU, and they get out-rebounded 43-25 on the boards. 32 of those rebounds that LSU got were defensive rebounds.
Dang.
So right? So think about that, JT, and how important guys like Aziz, Page, Mitchell, Skillings become just going after defensive rebounding.
For sure. No, that's a big thing. That's a big thing. And I think, they rebound well. Like, keep that margin substantial, and they should be fine. I mean, just because, this Bearcats are coming in with a lot of momentum. Kansas State isn't as good. Right now, they're not as good as they were last year. So I think Bearcats just need to impose their will, make the right plays, and they'll be okay. But protect the ball, man. Keep get shots at the rim. Let's not turn it over, and let's rebound them. Give them one shot and done. Or no shots. Let's get a steal or a block. But just rebound. If they get it up, get on the rim. Hey, let's go ahead and it's clean the glass, man. Let's be glass cleaners.
Yep, love that. Now, Neil, sorry, we haven't let Neil talk very much.
I know, man. Neil, we shut him out.
We did. And Neil's got a brand new mic. So he texted us early like, hey, I got a new microphone for Christmas, and we're not letting him talk.
Yeah.
Neil, go ahead and cook, bro. Go ahead and cook.
Hit the auto-tune.
Hit the auto-tune, baby. But for the key for the Bearcats in this one, JT hits the nail on the head there. Obviously, you want to win the rebounding margin. That's something that Cincinnati has been wanting to do all season. They are one of the best rebounding teams in the country. Now, this could be a game where they could win the game, the boards. If they win the boards, should single-handedly win this game by more than what they're projected to right now. It's Cincinnati is favored by 3 points heading into tomorrow on the road. But if Cincinnati is able to take care of the boards between the likes of Dylan Mitchell, Aziz Bandago, AP, a couple others, Dan Skillings as well. If they are able to win the boards in this one, this could be a game where Cincinnati wins by 8 or more points on the road.
Hey,
but Neil,
Neil, hold on. Who's our best rebounder?
I would say AZ or Dylan Mitchell right now. Dan Skillings missing time, but Dan Skillings is in there as well.
Okay.
But on top of it, if they're able to win the battle of the boards, that's going to set the tone completely for tomorrow night there in Manhattan. Now, if they do that, I project an 8-point victory at least if they're able to dominate the boards. But, however, I think this for Cincinnati is a game where You could get out and push the tempo a little bit on them. Obviously, you want to play. The lob game has been there in recent weeks, but with it being the first game in Big 12 play, don't expect to see as many lobs tomorrow. But when the lob opportunities do come, you have to connect. You can't miss on the lob opportunities, especially into the Big 12 play. But for them to win this game, two things. Win the boards. If you can win the boards, that's a positive sign. But you can not turn the ball over more than 12 times in this one. If they turn the ball over 12 or more times, it's going to come down to the very end. And this was a matchup, for those who remember, last year came down to a buzzer beater before Simas Lukosius called game. So overall, I don't think this could be a game where it goes down to the end, but you never know in Big 12 play. But if Cincinnati does those two things, I predict them to win by at least 8 points.
Well, we talked about playing in the AAC versus the Big 12. Obviously, being in the Big 12 so much better. And this is a case in point why it's so much better. You look at a Kansas State playing at Kansas State, and even though they're 6-5, this is still a good road game, right? It's not like going to JT's favorite place, East Carolina or wherever, right? How many people were there?
50 ball.
50 people there.
Yeah, that's counting the people that's working.
Right, and family members.
Yeah,
right, and family. No, just like casual fans there, right?
No, for sure. They got better stuff to do.
To go East Carolina game, but no, this is like, this is why you want to go to a big time conference, not just because the Kansas games, the Baylors, the Arizonas, those are obviously big games and fans, and we all look forward to those. But then even games like this are very, very important. And I think, like you said, this is definitely a winnable game, but we've got to do those things that you guys talk about, taking care of the basketball and rebounding. And I think the Bearcats will end up being very successful and walking away with a win. The Kenyon segment, Keys to the Game, was sponsored by Greg Hood and Beachmont Toyota. Come see fellow Bearcat Greg Hood and Beachmont Toyota for all your new and pre-owned Toyota needs. Look for Greg Hooden on Instagram and Twitter at Cincy Greg Hooden. Hooden is spelled Hoodin, or come see Greg at Beachmont Toyota for all your Toyota needs, ready to help you and our Bearcat family get into a new Toyota. You're listening to the Bearcat Tip-Off Talk podcast presented by Donahue Accounting Services. Now, the Twyman segment is sponsored by Visionary Cleaners. This is where we cover hot topics. And what a great segue. We want to talk about conference play expectations and what are our predictions for conference play. Now, this year in the Big 12, the Bearcats will play 20 games, 10 home, 10 away. JT, we're going to start with you. What's your prediction?
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Are you yawning? Are you drinking?
Man, it was a quick yawn, man.
That's crazy, bro.
I don't know how that happened. That was wild. But anyways, normally those trickle down too. Somebody else gonna yawn in a second. But all right, good. My bad. I'm on trash. So
5-hour energy drink right there.
Oh man, you got all the time? Hey man, be slow on them, man. Be slow. I want you to be ticker, man. Ticker. Be careful.
I'm good.
Take the moderation, man. No.
Sip slow.
Moderation. But, so 20 games. I'm gonna go 13-7. That's how I'm feeling. Over what's that? 65% in conference. That's how I'm rolling. They have a potential to do better, honestly, but I think 13-7 out of the 20. That's how they rolling. So that'll be what, 23-8 going into Big 12 play. I mean Big 12 tournament play. Yeah. I like that.
You know what's crazy? On my notes, I put for conference play 8-2 at home, 5-5 on the road, 13-7.
I don't even know how. I think I broke it down. Like I'm like they passed 500. I just like I don't know. You did a good job of like teetering half. I just literally like I'm like, all right, they'll go 5-5. I mean, what I'm saying, I'm like 10-10. They'll do better in 10-10. So I was like kind of gauging. I'm like, it's gonna be a couple of swing games I think they're gonna get this year that they didn't get last year. They had those 5 or 6 games and they lost by a couple points. I
So
think
many of those last year.
yeah, so it was crazy. So I think with them having that same core that experienced those games, I think it's going to it's going to bode well and bode a lot of confidence for those guys. I think they'll win a few games that are grinders, and then I think they'll win a few games by 5 to 7 points that you probably don't expect them to win, or people don't expect them to win this year.
Yep. Neil?
Yeah, so we're actually all pretty close, spot on there. You guys said 13-7. I'm going to go 14-6. Obviously, you guys talk about the road games being
Okay.
the difficult matchups, but when you're looking down at this non-conference schedule, you know that there's going to be no bye weeks all the way until March now, which as a college basketball fan, you probably love that, but you're going to go through those tough stretches. And I think if Cincinnati continues to handle business at home, you look at what they're doing right now, they're 7-0 through the non-conference slate at Fifth Third Arena. I think if you take care of most of the games at home, now if that's an 8-2 or a 9-1, and you have some pretty big games at home, but if you handle business at home, which everybody knows, Fifth Third Arena is probably one of the most electric environments and home court advantages in all of college basketball. So, I mean, Dylan Mitchell has said that himself, being on the other side of things. This crowd is going to win you some ball games that it might not have been able to win you on the road. So the reason I'm saying 14-6 is I think there's a couple games there on the road where you might be able to go and you might be able to take some of them. One being Oklahoma State towards the end of the season, West Virginia, and then you have that conference split right there in the middle of the January where you have the trip to Utah, where if you can get both of those in that week at BYU and at Utah, compared to what some others might say, they got the big win at Utah last year versus BYU last year on the road, so they have the experience there. But if they're able to get two of those, if they're able to go at least get one of those games out in Utah, I think that would be the swing game that could put them at that 14-6 mark in conference play.
Well, listen, I love everything everyone says, and I think one of the keys too, and we have to look at the big picture, is this conference is to help us be prepared for March and March Madness. Because listen, at the end of the day, so much is weighed on how you do in the tournament. Did you make the tournament? How far did you make it in the tournament? And I think the great thing about this year's Bearcat team is they're going to be so much better at the end of conference play. They're going to be a very good basketball team. And there are going to be some times they lose some games that are very frustrating to us, to the fan base. But I think we've got to look at the bigger picture. Did that game help prepare you and make you better come March? And listen, it's tough at Kansas, right? We're Kansas at home.
Kansas is at Fifth Third, yep.
For Fifth Third, got at Baylor, correct? We have
Baylor, yep.
So, I mean, look, there are a lot of tough games, but these games, I think, and I said this, I think, last pod, one of the reasons that I love the Xavier and Dayton game is because the intensity and the wackiness of, the Xavier game specifically, but even the intensity of the Dayton game and at a neutral site, those things help you come March because that's what you face in NCAA tournament, right? You're not playing at home in NCAA tournament. You're playing, at a neutral site. So all these things, as Wes Miller and his staff look and they break down this schedule, they're looking at many schedules within the schedule and looking at ways that, okay, this is going to help us be better, come March. Because at the end of the day, if this team does what they're supposed to do and come March should make the tournament, right, JT? We've talked about this. This team should make the tournament,
for
right?
Sure.
Barring no injuries or major collapses with anything. And once you get there, it's you have to see how the matchups look, who you match up with, who you see in the second or third round. And I felt like, sorry to kind of jump on this, I felt like that Dayton game, just watching it on TV, it felt, and I was telling the buddy I was watching the game with, it felt like a second round NCAA game, just like watching it. It really did. It felt like one of those type of games. So
that's fair.
Don't you know what I'm saying, JT?
Yeah.
Like it just felt like that. And listen, I think we started off shooting the ball poorly versus Dayton, right? We weren't making very many shots. Is that right? So Shit, that happens in NCAA tournament. You're playing a gym sometimes you don't shoot around at, you don't play at. Your shot's going to be a little bit off. It's wacky. You got to just work through it. And how did the UC basketball team work through it? They locked down that first half and played unbelievable defense. And that's going to carry to March, right? When you get in those tough battles second round. And I always think those second round games are so very, very tough. So sorry to go long-winded. I got excited, but I think all these conference games are just going to be, little samples that are going to help us out come March. The Twyman segment is sponsored by Visionary Cleaners. Visionary Cleaners is a locally owned company by former Bearcat student athletes. They specialize in high-quality commercial cleaning of businesses. Apart in pre- and post-construction cleans, they can be reached at 513-388-7816, or they can be contacted online at visionarycleaners.com. Fellows, this concludes another great podcast. Thanks to all of our sponsors, Donahue Accounting Services, Smart Dog Solutions, Greg Hooden at Beachmont Toyota, and Visionary Cleaners. And hey, before we sign off, I got something super random. All right? You guys ready for this?
All right, go for it.
Super, super random. Man, I don't know why this hit me so crazy. I was thinking about Kobe Bryant because we're getting ready, January. It's the anniversary of his passing, right?
Yep.
Man, I still have a hard time. And that was 2020, right? Yeah, 2020 when Kobe died because the pandemic happened shortly after. Not long after. I still just have a hard time believing that he's not with us and his daughter's not with us. Like, it just still, after all this time, doesn't feel real. How you guys feel? I mean, I'm sorry to bring up some random stuff, but
no, it really doesn't feel real now that you're thinking about it. Because I mean, you see it every year around this time of year when the Kobe's sitting courtside. The video reemerges of when he's sitting courtside with Gigi, and LeBron goes and daps him up on Christmas.
Yep.
Like that video surfaced 2 days ago again.
Yeah.
So it still feels super crazy because obviously he made an impact on the basketball court and then also in the community as well and on so many other people's lives. But it just doesn't seem real. Like it was one of those things where you could remember where you were when you heard the news of that tragic day.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those situations where you could remember and drop everything to remember where you were when that helicopter went down.
Yep. JT?
Nah, for sure, man. Honestly, that's my favorite player ever. So it's crazy. So most of the NBA players, they kind of get to grow old. You know what I mean? Like the OGs, like Oscar Robinson, Michael Jordan. Just think of other greats, Julius Erving. Right? They get to kind of grow old, and you see it, and then you just hear all this stuff that he was doing, especially like with the women's game and coaching and training these young women. So a lot of the players in the WNBA said he would take a liking to them and just train them just for the love of the game. And a lot of players you see Devin Booker and DeMar DeRozan, those guys kind of just say how much stuff he's done for them or kind of tips he's given them, even Giannis. So it's crazy, how much giving back he's done. And a lot of people were saying he was going to do real well in the film industry as well. So it's crazy, man, because you don't think about it. He was 45 when he passed. Was that right? Am I right about that? 44, 45?
I think pretty close to that because I think he and I were close to the same age. So.
Yeah.
He was 41 when he passed.
Dang, so I shorted it. So 41, so he would be 45 then, right? Or 44, 45, depending on when his birthday falls, I guess.
Yeah.
Or 44, about to be 45. So yeah, so it's crazy, man. It's one of those things where you're like, man, you think it's you'll see him his last game where he dropped 60 and be like, damn, and then thinking he's about to talk about it or something new, and you're like, oh shoot, seen this before, and he's gone. So yeah, it's crazy, man. One of those things, man, where everybody I think is impacted. When it's somebody you don't know, but they impact their reach is longer than they probably even understand.
For sure.
Type of thing. So yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, after his death, you started hearing all these Kobe stories from players.
Yeah.
Right? Of these like workouts, his mentality. I mean, we've always heard about Mamba mentality.
Yeah.
Had we really heard all the stories? Absolutely not. And then like people then had the opportunity to really start telling these stories. And what really bothers me is like I just got back from LA and you know they've got a statue of him and Gigi and stuff. And man, it's just hard to even look at, bro. Like it's a statue, but it's just like dang, bro, that's like his daughter, man. It's like I couldn't even. I was like, man, we gotta keep going. And you know, of course, Kobe was such a big figure, and you know, I was devastated when I heard. But then it's like, you know, his daughter goes down. That's just like that's like because you know what I'm saying, like a child's life is, and you just don't know what that child or that person's going to become and how great, you know, they could become. We'll never know. And you think about who really, other than Kobe, what other high-level athlete, male specifically, was really an advocate of women's basketball like Kobe Bryant had become. And then now you look in 2024, I mean, the WNBA and, you know, college basketball on the women's side is so much bigger now. And you could say Kobe had some impact on that just because he was bringing an awareness to the sport. And gosh, who knows what would have happened with Gigi in terms of how good she was. Oh, man.
Exactly.
Like I still shake my head thinking about that, man.
Yeah, nah, for sure. 100%, man. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about it. I mean, she was on the path to being one of those ones, too. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, just to see where that was going to go. And then all the stuff he was doing, like, especially with the young ladies, like, you know, Sabrina, she's
no
like,
doubt
talks highly of Kobe. You know, even like the OGs, like, you know, Lisa Leslie, you know, those people. So it's like, you just never know. It's crazy, man, because you see how the game is expanding, you know, for everybody, men's and women's, but women's is really catching on, or people are really watching it, you know, you know, just as a casual fan, which is great. I think, you know, him, like, it would be that he's helped, but I think he's playing a lot of seeds and a lot of the upper echelon ladies in the game, and you know they carried the torch. But he's like, dang, what if he would have still been here? He could have helped more young ladies, you know, kind of realize their potential. And then his daughter seemed like she was gonna be one of the ones that would be one of the ladies that would reach their potential as well. So it's crazy.
Yeah, I think he would have eventually probably owned his own team.
Yeah.
You know, things like that, a WNBA team. And
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. You know, I'm sorry to bring up like something random. I know this was like super random, but what made me think about it is, you know, the Grammys are getting ready to happen. I think February 2nd this year is the Grammys. And they were doing some Grammy stories earlier today on TV. If you remember in 2020, the Grammys were live the day Kobe died.
Really? That's crazy.
So Kobe died the same day.
Dang, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, think about this. In 2012, Whitney Houston died. The Grammys happened right shortly after she died. Then fast forward to 2020, Kobe dies that day because you know what I remember? Now that I think about it, here's what happened. 3 hours before, this is what I remember this. 3 hours before they were going live, Alicia Keys hosted the Grammys, and she was going to come out and do like this like big time performance. And they shifted, and she came out with, I think it was Boys to Men, and they did a tribute to Kobe to start the show. That was improv.
Oh, damn.
She found out when she rolled in there. They were like, Kobe's dead. She's like, what? And like people literally were finding out as they were coming in. Like,
that's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, for
sure. That's so crazy.
Yeah. And like you said, Neil, man, I think everybody, you know, you kind of remember where you were when certain people that you know, impacted you pass away, especially when they pass away tragically. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I remember when Michael Jackson died, I was getting ready. The time I was still playing like pickup basketball, and we were about to play pickup basketball, and nobody's phone worked. Like nobody's phone was working. We were like, what is wrong? And then like, I mean, when I say working in terms of like, you know, like getting on, looking stuff up,
Yeah.
Michael Jackson died. And like, do you remember the internet shut down?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I remember sitting on the steps getting ready to hoop, and some guy was like, yeah, Michael Jackson just died. We're like, what? The king of pop? Like, what? Yeah. And I remember when, shout out my guy, Brandon Seho, used to be with WOWT. He's the one that called me, and he was like, hey, man, I remember I was shaving. I was getting ready to go somewhere, and he was like, hey, I got terrible news, man. He's like, Kobe died. And I'm like, and there was a kid in Cincinnati at the time that was playing high school basketball whose name is Kobe. And I thought he was talking about that kid. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is terrible. And I'm like, and so he's like, you know, I'm talking about Kobe Bryant, right? And I'm like, no, that's got to be fake news, bro.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And then, so anyway, sorry to bring up something totally random, but I just saw this Grammys thing on. I'm like, I knew he was your favorite guy, JT.
Yeah, for sure. It's my guy, man. So yeah.
Yep. And last thing I want to say about Kobe is, I think it's a great story of, and some twist it a different way, but I'm going to say it like this. Here's a guy who went through, I mean, he worked his ass off to get to the level he did, and he made a tremendous mistake.
Yeah.
Right. In Colorado, he made a tremendous mistake. And then, you know, for what happened it was in Colorado, right?
Yeah, it was in Colorado, yeah.
So that mistake, that terrible mistake he made with that woman, to then have daughters.
Yeah.
And to have the impact on so many people he did, it was almost like he recognized that mistake, changed his life around, and really dedicated his life to helping others, especially women. I think that's kind of overlooked. Is that?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I feel you. Because it was like a situation happened, whatnot. Got to quit it, of course. But at the same time, you put yourself in that position where it could, you know what I mean, where it was doubt, right? So, but for him to be able to work with women after that situation shows to his character as well. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, if he was real, I mean, I feel like if he was that type of guy where he was painting that picture of, he's not going to get to that point, right?
Yeah.
Where women are like, hey, I want my daughter around this person. I want professional athletes who have control. They're going to want to be around them too. So it's one of those things where it's a hell of a redemption story where people, the one thing they can go back and just be negative, they'll try to paint that picture. But I feel like he's done a lot of good things to right that wrong or being looked in that light where he could have been took it a different way where he didn't even want to do that because of that situation too. You know what I mean? So
yeah, for sure.
I thought that's dope. You know what I mean? That's a hell of a 180 to do and to be able to help them and to show the type of character he had.
Yeah. And I still think he's the only, let me be careful when I say this. Let me think about it. Well, okay, he's probably the only athlete who has a signature shoe that could come close to having some of the impact that Air Jordan sneakers do. Like Kobe sneakers are loved, bro. Like
yeah, they are
on the court, the Grinches, like, they are loved. Like I don't think anybody. Would you agree with that? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to be careful. I don't miss anybody.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think they're probably I feel like
Is anybody? I mean, LeBron's is like. I don't think LeBron's have the same.
I feel like you see more people wearing Kobe's than LeBron's nowadays.
I do. But
yeah, I know. I think so too. Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah. I mean, if you took what was the the Grinches and some of those Kobe's are the top selling Kobe's, right?
Yeah, right? Reverse Grinches, those probably definitely doing numbers. But it's still a lot of Kobe's. Like that style with the Grinches, those are all pretty sweet. Like that's just a good shoe. overall. But it's a few other ones that are pretty nice too. Like,
yeah,
they got some solid shoes in those. So, but yeah, the reverse wrenches, that style is just fire. Like, you really can't mess that one up.
Yep. Well, hey, sorry about that, man.
I thought we were done. He was like, had a question, got a curveball, but that was a good one though.
Yeah. I had to bring that up, man. And you're listening to the Bearcat Tip-Off Talk podcast presented by Donahue Accounting Services. For friendly expert tax advice whenever you need it, come to Donahue Accounting Services, a leading accounting firm in Cincinnati, Ohio. Our top-notch accountants strive to help you resolve all your financial and tax issues. Call Donahue Accounting Services today for a free consultation at 513-528-3982 or visit online at donahueaccountingservice.com. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Bearcat Tip-Off Talk podcast presented by Donahue Accounting Services. Go Bearcats.